Hello, friends. I think we've all heard about the terms, being a human being or a human doing. And I can certainly speak from my own experience that I have been a human doing most of my life. And the transition into a human being, um, it's been a long and tedious process, I promise you. Didn't happen overnight, and there's still more, but it is very much getting easier. So maybe a nice question to ask yourself today, is just to see, are you a human being or are you a human doing? And we are probably a little bit of both, as long as we are still identified with being human, which we are, because here we are. We have a body, right? And even though we may not fully identify with it anymore, we are still here as human beings, having, a spiritual interior, I would say. So, what is it like to give up the human doing? I'm not talking about sitting, on your butt, drinking beers or oming or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. The human doing is when we are so identified with ourselves as being separate from the whole, from the flow, from the fulfillment, that we are always out there doing and hustling and trying and efforting. And all we do, literally, all we do there is to keep that false identity, that false image of ourselves alive. And I know it's not easy to give it up, right? Because it's all we know. And I think I mentioned yesterday, I was talking about, these constructs that we have inside of us, inside of our human being, like this, right? Spelled being with a capital B, our beingness as a human. There are a lot of constructs, which is what we have accepted as a reality because we think we are separate. And these structures, they are, of course, they are in the whole, but they are really projected from our minds, which is where the belief in duality and separation comes from. So as I talked about, cracking these structures are beginning to crack. And it's beautiful that we can crack them, allow them to crack. It's not like we go in and crack them, but when we become aware of them, they can start just softening and then dissolving. And sometimes it might actually feel like a crack because it's like there's like a whole shift, you go like, what was that? Why did I believe that so strongly and made a big case of it to everybody? So that is something that is so familiar to us and so real. And therefore, it's so hard to let it go. And that's where the human doing, that is the human doing, the identity that we are here on our own and we have to make it to the end. We have to make enough money till the day we die. There's all this that comes with living a life outside of the flow of fullness. Once we start seeing that, when it becomes like an obvious thing, it's like, oh, here it is. What do we do with it then? Because the doer might kick in immediately, especially if you are trying to get rid of your doer. Your doer is going to jump in and say, hey, I can do that. I know exactly what I can do to soften and to get rid of this separate sense of self. And of course, that's a joke, but it's very real for most of us. And it's actually so real because we can't help it. We have been identified with a human doing forever. And if you're not, then you are so blessed beyond belief, that you actually had some kind of an upbringing or an experience or came in, with that frequency where being really is your natural state consciously. But that's not how it is for most of us, certainly not for me. And but when we start seeing that with a willingness to let it go, to soften it, that's where, at least in my case, that's when I really could see how this doer was running the show 24/7 and very actively so, that it was willing to jump in at any time to help me stop doing. And all it did was add more doing. So the letting go is not something we can do. What we can do or become aware of is that inner terrain of our beingness, our human being. Our human being is right here, right now, everywhere, inside and out, in everybody. That beingness, the divine beingness, is what is at the core of who and what we are. So it's a matter of really getting to know that part, like as a real thing, as something, a felt sense. When you touch into it, there's there's something that goes, oh, there's something that relaxes, it could be a deep breath. It could be, your belly just relaxes. There might be gurgling. There might be tears, because the holding pattern of the doer can relax, because it realizes that there is something else that it can rest in. And that is where letting go happens. I have not been able to do it without that thing to rest back into. But the more I learned to connect with that and to trust that, the easier it has been to go there instead of there and trying to go there or to let go of this. That's just the same energy of programming, that we're doers. When we are in being, we will be doing a lot or not. You see, there is no, we can't think about, oh, it's going to look this way, it's going to look that way. I mean, we can certainly think about it and we can hope for it. But if you really go to the longing in that, because I know there is a deep longing in all of us to just be these beautiful expressions of the divine as a human divine being, maybe. That lives in each one of us, whether we are aware of it or not. Many of us are aware of it because we can feel that it's almost like it's pushing. It's pushing at our contractions and at our construct. It's pushing against it. And then many of us, we push back. I shared a video about that a few days ago, how I was doing that and I wasn't really aware that I was doing it. But it's so automatic because we're so identified with the doer that we just do that. And at the same time, our human beingness, it's giving us insights, it's giving us inspirations, makes connections. That is happening all the time. And the more we listen to that, the more we benefit from it. And so as we drop in more and more in the beingness and allow it to expand out through and outside of our contractions, and this happens with our permission. I don't feel ever that my divinity is trying to push me to do anything. It might, put some obstacles, or it's not really putting obstacles, but there might be some situations where I feel very challenged. But it's up to me to be willing to let those obstacles, those structures dissolve from the inside out. It cannot be put upon us because in reality, there's nothing really there except in our mind as a belief. But from the inside, the more we let ourselves rest in our beingness and allow that to push out, to radiate out, push is probably the wrong word, to radiate out, it naturally collapses these incoherent, tight contractions. And once they start dissolving, there will be a natural coherence that we then start to experience from the inside because it's always been there. It's just that we have been focusing so much on, these structures and that they need to survive and make money and be successful and find love. That's all that the structures, and completely turned away from our inner. So how can you, again, a question you can ask yourself, how can you rest more into beingness, a human being? Maybe after you listen to today's video, human being may have a different frequency for you, where when you say human being, you remember, oh, being, being. How can I be more of a human being and let go of the human doing when the doing is done from out here, disconnected from beingness? I hope that makes sense. Learning to trust this is the process. It's taken me years and keeps going, but it's getting better. And just really trusting this more. And for me, a lot of the process has also been to really say, I am done with that. I do not want to be out there doing Pernilla as if I'm a separate sense, a separate being, separate being doing, trying to, make things work, survive, be loved, make money, and all the things we all do out here. I just had to literally say, I do not want to do it anymore. And maybe you've heard the one I talked about not so long ago, that I broke up with fear. That was actually the process where my little kitty was dying, and it was just a process of letting go of how the fear kept wanting to come in. And I just had to say, I will not live like that anymore. And that's been also the process with the doing, because it's all fear-based. It's fear-based that we won't survive if we don't do this. Who's going to pay my bill if I don't go out there hustling? So there's a lot of pressure for all of us in this being a doer. So little by little, I started giving up because I had come to the end of the road. It's like, I don't want to live like that. If that's how it's supposed to be, I don't want to engage in that anymore. I don't want to be here. I do not want to live like that anymore. So it's very strong, right? And it comes like that for many of us when we have come to the end. It's like, this is insane. I keep trying doing the same and I'm driving myself crazy. I will not do it anymore. And then you're like, oh my God, what now? How is it going to happen that I'm not trying to make it happen anymore? A lot of fear in that, right? A lot of fear in that. This is where we can go, okay, I notice there's a wave of fear arising just by the thought of not being an compulsive doer, trying to survive and make it. Now we have an opportunity to be present with this fear and just feel it. Let your whole body just experience this fear, and you don't need to do anything with it. You can just find it instead of letting it run your life and make you do things because you're so afraid. Now you just say, hey, wait a minute. What is this? What is this? Where did that come from? That if I don't keep separating myself from the divine, I'm not going to survive. Like, where did that come from? So we start questioning it. But we can only question it when we take that pause, take a deep breath, and say, okay, let me just see, what is this thing here? Now we have an opportunity to make another choice. Maybe not the first time. Maybe, we need to just look at it time after time and go like, oh, here it is again, that weird thing that wants me to be scared, and it wants me to keep doing, and it doesn't know how to relax because it's just so afraid that it won't make it if it doesn't keep doing. And many of you can probably recognize that, and there will be many who have also completed that cycle. So as you just stay with that fear and feel it fully, you can ask yourself the question, is this really what I want from deep inside my heart? And most will say no here. There might be a few who say yes. And is this really how the divine lives life, expresses itself through fear and efforting and pushing, comparing, competing? Is that really in resonance with God? You go, no, that doesn't make sense. You see, so you use your mind a little bit to educate yourself out of this fear so you can have a little more distance and question it. And then when there's more distance and you can just choose more, you can choose and say, I don't want to live like that anymore. And I'm speaking about how I did it. It may be totally different for you. Always follow your own truth. I'm just sharing mine. But then there is a choice when you say, I do not want to do it anymore. And I have no clue how. But that's okay. That's okay. That's normal. That's when we enter into the mystery, where we think we need to know how, but that's basically what the divine says. No, you don't need to know how. I know because I am it. So you need to keep resting into that beingness and allow the beingness again to just, by radiating out more, it dissolves this doing structure. Not overnight. Maybe for some, it would be great. And I do believe that things are going so much faster today than they did even yesterday or the week or the month or the year before. So things are moving faster, and we can probably dissolve things faster and faster. But it's like from the inner beingness, let that just radiate out from the inside out and let it touch the barriers, the protections, the scaffolding, all that stuff that we have put up there so we feel safe. Let that just be dissolved from the inside out. And in the meantime, let yourself be guided by this. It may mean you're not going to do a lot for a while, and it may mean that you will, but we don't know. But this is the place where we can go to for the full letting go of that false identity that we think we are, that always believes it needs to do it all and be in charge. So just for today, let's just shine a little light on that. And then you can see how you want to dance with that, how you want to incorporate any of this in your life, or if you want to just keep being a human doing, that's fine with me. It's always a choice, isn't it? But I sense that if you're listening to my channel, you might want to start shifting more into your divine beingness. and start taking some steps to make that happen. And of course, if you need help with that, please reach out. You can just always set up a time with me for a self-discovery session, and then we can explore if I can help you with that, if I'm the right one. And if this is really what you want. All right, friends, I'll talk to you soon.